Welcome back to Everyman Prepping. Hope you're all having a great day. In today's video, I want to talk about a subject that is a little touchy, that doesn't get much airtime, but it's going to be in all of our faces pretty soon, I think. And that is a draft or a conscription if we go to war with China over Taiwan. As you can see in what's rolling behind me, it's the Chinese drills practicing the invasion of Taiwan. And if they do invade Taiwan or even do a blockade, I think America will come to their defense. And if that happens, I think a draft or a conscription will happen. So what does that mean? Well, if you're in the age of 18 to 25 and a male, they tried to get females in there in the 2022 Defense Act, but that amendment failed, thankfully, because no respectable country sends their women off to war by draft. If you want to volunteer and you're a woman, that's fine, but you don't conscript your women as a successful country. You just don't do that. But I'm going off on a tangent. But let's get back. So if you're 18 to 25 male, and we go to war with China over Taiwan, they're probably going to start the draft, and we're going to get into the reasons why. But you need to really be ready for that. And if you're a parent and you have children of that range, you need to have this discussion with them. Share this video with them. Let them know what's really going on. A lot of kids that age not really paying attention to this at all. They have no idea what's going on. But this could seriously affect them. And soon, maybe. I know they're talking 2025, 2027 for China to do this. I think it could happen much faster. So we need to talk about this now. Families need to talk about this. Talk to your kids. Like the video so it gets out there. The more likes you have, the more it gets out there. Share it with your friends and family. Share this with your kids and all that. And see if you can get them to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I try to get a lot of this information out there that's not talked about a lot. And this is one of those subjects because nobody wants to talk about this. And families don't want to avoid this. No one wants to talk about sending their sons off to war to another country for something maybe you don't believe in. I'll touch on that towards the end of the video. But let's go in here and see what we're talking about. And this is from The Hedge here. And we see an article, and this is based on from a small college professor. Doesn't matter who it's from, but it brings to light what I believe is going to happen also. And that's, that the army, the military would have to, basically go into a draft to fight a superpower. Right now, our military, the size it is, even though it's over 1 million active duty, if you take in all the branches, and we'll look at those numbers in a minute, it's not big enough to fight China. Even though, as many of you are probably thinking, that when, the rule of combat is a 3-to-1 advantage. If you're an attacker, you need 3 times the manpower that the defense has to be successful. So, in this case, China would need 3 times the soldiers that Taiwan, United States would have. But can we muster that? I don't think so. Not without a draft, and that's for sure. But go to this article. It says, the U.S. military could not achieve victory in a war with China using the current all-volunteer force. And going on, it says, we're facing global threats, and we have a force structure which we know will not work against these threats. It says it worked against Iraq, because it's a smaller army, and during the Persian Gulf Wars it worked. But look what happened in Afghanistan. Didn't work there. That was a gigantic failure, as we all know. What happened there, what the current administration did when they pulled out. So the military has been all volunteer since the Vietnam War when the last draft was used. And basically in bold here it says, our army is too small as constituted to actually prosecute a war with these countries. These countries means another superpower, a China or a Russia. This is key what it says, the last of it here. But it's large enough that it's sucking a lot of resources away. Yes, the military budget is almost $1 trillion, the size it is. Imagine if we went to war, what that budget would be, what that would do to the deficit, to inflation. So that's videos for another day. We'll talk about that. This one I want to focus on the draft. So let's talk about numbers and why we need a draft. So this here is a chart from Statista that shows, active duty Army, 482,000, the Navy, Air Force, all that. You add up all of our active duty personnel, and it comes out to a little over 1 million people. And let's look at this from Wikipedia. I know it's Wikipedia, but I know they can be, very bad at their numbers. They're pretty good at numbers and other stuff, so we're going to believe them for this right now just to see. So they say China, largest army in the world, military I should say, 2.1 million. United States are 1.3. It kind of agrees with these numbers here, so we're doing pretty good. So China's almost double the size. They don't have that 3-to-1 advantage as per se, but this is the U.S. number being prior service that it was before the Persian Gulf, but there's a lot of bloat in those numbers. they're not, this is, combat fighting out of this 1.3, like I said, you're going to have 200,000 or 300,000 troops. And if you take them all and you move them into China, that leaves the rest of the world open for, South Korea, North Korea having it, you can't pull them out of there because then North Korea will just walk through South Korea. So, we can't muster the numbers we're going to need. This 2.1 million that China has, they're going to be fighting in basically their backyard. And they can increase those numbers in a heartbeat. That whatever they need, they can increase to fight. They're going to say, well, Taiwan has forces. Well, let's roll down here and find Taiwan. Actually, this is small for you guys. Let me blow this up. You guys probably can't see what's going on. There we go. Now let's look at the numbers. All right, Taiwan. Taiwan is very small. Here we are, 163,000 in the military. That's basically nothing. If you take that 163, and then we go back up here to the United States of 1.3, what do you have, 1.5 million total? Still nothing close to China's and what North Korea can pump out. Still at a huge disadvantage. And then let's look at this here, the number-wise from this article. This is from Al Jazeera. I know a lot of you are going to think that it's propaganda. Well, you know what? Most of the U.S., news outlets are propaganda, and we know that. The CNN's, MSNBC, truth is always in the middle. But their numbers for active duty U.S. soldiers pretty much jive with the other ones, 486,000. So I'm going to take their estimation of the Chinese army as being, pretty accurate as well. They have 915,000, almost 2 to 1 right there. And all these 915,000 are going to go into Taiwan because that's all they need to protect. They don't have to protect anywhere else. A lot of these active duty soldiers here in this 46, a lot of them are in Korea. A lot of them are in Germany over there in Europe. So, you can't take all these to Taiwan. So would China have a 3 to 1 advantage? Yes, they would. And a lot more in reserve. So you would need a draft to come up with those numbers. Now, let's talk about, this is all my opinion here I want to put out. I don't believe in the draft. I wouldn't believe in supporting this country the way it is now. This country, the United States of America, I love the country. I love what it stands for. But the people running it, the people in charge, not so much. I wouldn't support them going to war. I wouldn't support them drafting our young men and women. Well, they wouldn't draft the women. Drafting our young men going into a meat grinder that would be Taiwan over there. It's something that I don't personally support. It's something that you need to talk about in your families. That's just my opinion of this. I don't think we should fight for this country fights for resources. This country fights for the elites. Fights for the petrodollar. No longer does this country fight for what was this country established. What made this country. The freedom of religions, personal freedoms, democracy, going from being poor to being successful. Helping other nations up in the third world. It's not what this country stands for. Now we're, all about corruption. People in power do anything they can to stay in power. They'll have wars to stay in power. They'll go into other countries to invade those countries to make them take the petrodollar because they're not doing something. It's no longer something I think we can support. I think we need to get back to that, and it might take some strong measures to get there. So, would I send my son or daughters, if I had them of that age, into the draft of the war? No. I'd have to find a way around it somehow. Not saying that's the right way, not saying it's a legal way, but families out there, young people watching this in that age range, you need to think about it. What would you do? You need to, plan for it. Because, as soon as China goes into there and, the bombs start dropping, that, they barricade off that island, they start, cutting off supplies to Taiwan, even if it starts at a naval blockade, it could most likely lead to a draft, especially if Taiwan starts losing it really fast and the U.S. starts plowing military personnel in there. It could definitely lead to that, especially if North Korea and South Korea get involved and they start going after it, over there. So the discussions need to happen. What would you do? Either yourself or with your family. Talk about it with your family. In the comment section below, write, do you support this? Do you support a draft? Do you not support the draft? Do you support what the country's standing for, the direction it's headed or not? Ask any questions down below. I love responding to all your comments. I know this is not the funnest subject to discuss. It's not out in the mainstream media for sure, and it won't be until it happens. But it's something I believe all of us need to talk about now just to get mentally prepared for if that happens. So that's all I have for you today. And until next time, keep your ear to the ground, head on a swivel.